Hello, and thank you for choosing to watch a New Life video. I'm Matt, and we're continuing our study of the heroes of faith that are talked about in Hebrews. Today we're going to look at Genesis chapter 32. That's where we're starting. Last time that Jacob had left where Laban, his father-in-law, was, and is now on his way to meet back up with his brother Esau. Anyone remember how things were when Jacob left?
Oh yeah, very hostile.
Very hostile. Esau was comforting himself with the thoughts, as soon as Dad dies, I'm going to kill my brother. Because, of course, Jacob had basically stolen his blessing through deceit and all that. But, so he's on his way, and chapter 32 starts. So Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. In a magnificent display of his care, God allows Jacob to see that he's not alone. God is with him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's camp." And he called the name of that place Mahanaim, which means double camp, literally. It's my camp, but it's not just my camp. It's God's camp. Is your house just your house, or is it God's house? God is with you everywhere you go, in a sense, and he also wants to be invited. Not just in your house, in your physical house, but inside you. And is where you're at, God, where God's at too. Is your house God's house? Is your car God's car? Something to think about. God wants to be involved in every part of our lives. Verse 3. Then Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother in the land of Seir, the country of Edom, and he commanded them, saying, "Speak thus to my lord Esau. Thus your servant Jacob says, I have dwelt with Laban and stayed there until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, and male and female servants, and I have sent to tell my lord that I may find favor in your sight." So what is he doing?
Sucking up?
Yes, sucking up. Oh, my lord Esau. I'm your servant. He is really sucking up. So, verse 6. Then the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, "We came to your brother Esau, and he also is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him." So, 400 guys are with him. I'll read the next verse. So Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. Well, 400 sounds like a pretty good sized army to come against him and what he's got. He's got this picture in his mind that for whatever it's been, 21 years or something, maybe 20 years, something like that, he's been planning this. As soon as Jacob gets anywhere near, I'm going to get him. And so he and 400 people are coming. Oh boy. I'm in trouble now. So verse 7 says, So Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that were with him, and the flocks and herds and camels, into two companies. And he said, if Esau comes to the one company and attacks it, then the other company which is left will escape. So he's not even thinking that he might have a chance of beating Esau either. He's just saying, okay, if we're divided in two, hopefully he'll send all his forces after one of them, and the other can escape. Then Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, the Lord who said to me, return to your country and to your family, and I will deal well with you. I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies and of all the truth which you have shown your servant. For I crossed over this Jordan with my staff, and now I have become 2 companies. Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he come and attack me and the mother with the children. For you said, I will surely treat you well, and make your descendants as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. So, Jacob did divide up his company into his group into 2 companies, but what else did he do? What should we do?
I think he put Leah in the first company and Rachel in the second, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is the other thing he did. After that, he prayed.
Oh, right.
You know, there's only so much we can do when we're faced with a difficult situation. And sure, you do what you can do, but then you pray, because what we can do is never going to be enough. We've got to trust God. Not just pray, but pray with faith. And how did he pray? He admitted he ain't worthy of any of the mercy that God has given him. And none of us are. And he admitted to God that he's afraid. You know, you got no secrets from God, so might as well admit it. Pray honestly. You're not fooling him. You might be able to fool somebody else. I might be able to fool somebody else. But God knows what's bothering me. And I need to be honest with him. And he's reminding God of his promises. So, verse 13. So he lodged there that same night, and took what came to his hand as a present for Esau his brother. 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes, 20 rams, 30 milk camels with their colts, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 foals. Then he delivered them into the hand of his servants, every drove by itself, and said to his servants, Pass over before me, put some distance between successive droves. And he commanded the first one, saying, When Esau my brother meets you and asks you, saying, To whom do you belong, and where are you going? Whose are these in front of you? Then you shall say, These are your servant Jacob's. It is a present sent to my lord Esau. And behold, he also is behind us. So he's sending even more presents. He's really hoping to pacify his brother with all these gifts. First kissing up, presents, and that was a long list of things that I read. So in verse 19, so he commanded the second, In this manner you shall speak to Esau when you find him, and also say, Behold, your servant Jacob is behind us. For he will say, for he said, I will appease him with a present that goes before me, and afterward I will see his face. Perhaps he will accept me. So the present went on and over before him, but he himself lodged that night in the camp. So he is sending a lot of stuff to Esau, and he's prayed. Excuse me. And so he's staying that night in the camp. And he arose that night and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed over the ford of Jabbok. He took them, sent them over the brook, and sent over what he had. Then Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled him until the breaking of day. Now this, the context will show it's one of those theophanies, a pre-incarnation appearance of Christ. Now when he saw that he did not prevail against him, he touched the socket of his hip. The socket of Jacob's hip was out of joint as he wrestled with him. So that's interesting. Yeah. Makes you think that maybe that man that wrestled with him at theophany was not going full force to stop him.
Yeah.
Right.
If he can just touch and all of a sudden the hip's out of
Yeah.
socket. But Jacob didn't want to let him go. And he wrestled with him. And he said, "Let me go, for the day breaks." But he said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." So Jacob is stubbornly holding on. I want to be blessed. So he said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob," which means supplanter, one who takes the heel, deceiver. That's what the name Jacob means. And he said, "Your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, prince with God, or one who prevails with God." And of course that is what the nation that came from him is known as, Israel, not Jacob. So sometimes in the Bible, a few times it's referred to that way, but its name is Israel. "For you have struggled with God and with men, and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked, saying, "Tell me your name, I pray." And he said, "Why is it that you ask about my name?" And he blessed him there. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, which literally means face of God. "For I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved." And it's an interesting thing. In the Bible, people always say that if they see God, they'll die. But there's actually never been a case of that happening in the Bible.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So he's saying, "I saw the face of God, and I lived." Just as he crossed over Penuel, the sun rose on him, and he limped on his hip. "Therefore this day the children of Israel do not eat the muscle that shrank, which is on the hip socket, because he touched the socket of Jacob's hip in the muscle that shrank." So Israel does not eat that part of meat. Now Jacob, chapter 33 starts. "Now Jacob lifted his eyes and looked, and there Esau was coming, and with him were 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the two maidservants. He put the maidservants and their children in front, Leah and her children behind, and Rachel and Joseph last. Then he crossed over before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. So he sees Esau is there, and he's got his 400 men. So he's trying to get everybody divided up even further. And he comes and bows himself to the ground 7 times. Personally, I have back problems. If I tried bowing 7 times simultaneously, that would for sure hurt me. Maybe I could bow once or twice.
Yeah. That's it.
And he's just had a certain operation on his hip. It can't be easy to bow. I mean, it might be easy to fall down, but the getting up part,
Yeah.
you know. So he's just bowing. Verse 4, "But Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept." I can just imagine what Jacob thinks when Esau starts to run.
Oh.
You know, okay, he's about to stab me. But sometimes when we think there's something that is terrifying, something that we're scared of, it might not be anything at all. I mean, I got something in the mail, that from Medicare, and I thought they were going to do something with my case or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And all it was I'd forgotten that a week or 2 ago I'd asked for a new card. That's all it was. So I had this, what in the world is what is going on? But I opened it. And so sometimes what we think is going to be an unbeatable situation actually isn't anything. So his brother runs up to him and hugs him, kisses him. You know, what he's seeing, you know, sometimes absence can make the heart grow fonder. And if you're not really keeping anger, you know, keeping it going and going, you have to concentrate to hold a grudge for 20 years. So apparently Esau wasn't doing that for the whole 20 years. I mean, at first, yeah, he wanted to kill Jacob. But over this time, not seeing his brother for 20 years, I think he found that he missed him. And besides, in that time, he was not totally cursed. He was not destitute. You know, because he had been, that's one of the things he'd been afraid of, how he would end up, because he lost the specific blessing that Jacob got. Okay, verse 5, and he lifted his eyes and saw the women and children and said, "Who are these with you?" Now, do you think he knew who they were?
Probably.
You know, because it had been mentioned earlier, these servants were coming, some saying, yeah, he's married, he's got kids and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So he's looking at his sisters-in-law and his nephews and niece.
Mm-hmm.
Who are these with you? So he said, the children whom God has graciously given your servant. Then the maidservants came near, they and their children, and bowed down. Leah also came near with her children, and they bowed down. Afterward, Joseph and Rachel came near, and they bowed down. So, still kissing up. You know?
Yeah.
Still kissing up. Then Esau said, "What do you mean by all this company which I met?" You know, it's holy cow. What? You said this, all these presents and all that, and your servant Jacob is coming. He's saying, what do you mean by all this?
That's Esau saying
Yes,
that. Yeah.
that's Esau saying it. What do you mean by all this? And he said, these are to find favor in the sight of my Lord. But Esau said, I have enough, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself. So he's saying, I don't really need all this. I'm doing good. I'm doing fine.
Yeah.
But verse 10, but Jacob said, no, please. If I have now found favor in your sight, then receive my present from my hand, inasmuch as I have seen your face, as though I had seen the face of God, and you were pleased with me. Please take my blessing that is brought to you, because God has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough. So he urged him, and he took it. Jacob is so happy that that his brother's not going to slit his throat right there.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't mind giving this present, and also, I think he does feel some guilt, about saying how he'd said before how unworthy he was. He had cheated Esau out of his birthright and outright stole his blessing. And so he's kind of, part of what he's doing is restoring some of that. And he is very pleased, as I said, that his brother's not out to kill him. And so he's happy to give that. He insisted. Then Esau said in verse 12, let us take our journey, let us go, and I will go before you. So he's saying, okay, let's go, and it's implying basically going to his home,
To Esau's home?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, basically implying that, because certainly not going to Laban's home where Jacob had been. So, but he's still a little unsure, Jacob is. I see no reason why. Esau seems very sincere, and there's never any reason to doubt that. But Jacob is still a little uneasy. But Jacob said to him, "My Lord knows that the children are weak, and the flocks and the herds which are nursing are with me. And if the men should drive them hard one day, all the flock will die. Please let my Lord go on ahead before his servant. I will lead on slowly at a pace which the livestock that go before me and the children are able to endure until I come to my Lord in Seir." That's his immediate excuse. Though we'll read on, he doesn't ever actually go all the way. But verse 15, "And Esau said, 'Now let me leave with you some of the people who are with me.'" It's okay, let me leave some of these 400 guys that are with me. But he said, "What need is there? Let me find favor in the sight of my Lord." So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir, and Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built himself a house and made booths for his livestock. Therefore the name of the place is called Succoth, which means God, the God of Israel. Booths, the next one. Read the wrong definition. That's for verse 20. So literally booths, so he doesn't go all the way to Seir. He goes there. Then Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, where he came from Paddan Aram, and he pitched his tent before the city, and he bought the parcel of land where he had pitched his tent from the city of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. Then he erected an altar there and called it El Elohi Israel, literally God, the God of Israel. So he has come back to the area where he had left, the general area. And instead of killing him, Esau has greeted him graciously. He still doesn't want to be right there. I think he just fears that one day Esau's going to just be sitting there and thinking, that really was rotten, that stuff that Jacob did before. I think that's what he's afraid is going to happen. But nonetheless, he got through there and God blessed him. And so he's back in the land of Canaan. And that's the place where God wanted Israel. It's a place that God told Abraham to go. It's a place that would eventually become occupied by the nation of Israel, where they would live. In the book of Joshua, they'd conquer it. So what do you learn from these two chapters?
God changes people's hearts.
Yes, God can change people's hearts.
God gives people favor and grace with other people.
Yes, absolutely. God gives grace and favor with other people. You can learn other things. This patriarch Jacob, hereafter known as Israel, was just like us. He was afraid. It's a wonderful thing to me when you go through the Bible. These people in the Bible were not perfect. If the Bible were full of perfect people, I'd give up right there. I'm never going to be that. So why should I bother and put forth all this effort just to fail? But God is not looking for perfect people. He's looking for people who will trust Him. People who will put their faith in Him.
And Jacob didn't need to be afraid.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. He was wrong, as I have sometimes been wrong, as all of us have sometimes been wrong. It is amazing when you think about, I think about anything in my life I've been afraid of, and Very few times has anything been as scary as I thought it would be. Very few times. It's a sad tendency of people to get all worked up and worried about what turns out to be nothing. But even when we are really facing something, when we really are facing a difficult time, God is with us always, and we just need to put our faith in Him. And He will be there with us and bring us through. So, if there's no other comments on that, we'll close in a word of prayer. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank You for the example of how You dealt graciously with Jacob, how You've dealt graciously with so many people in the Bible, and how You deal graciously with us. We ask You would help us to take this to heart, to trust You, to know that You will bring us through whatever we're facing, whether it's an imagined terror or real terror. You will always be with us. Help us to trust You. Help us trust You more and more every day. In Jesus' name.